Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly high-pressure, totally fascinating world of professional interpreting. Whether you're aiming for the diplomatic stage, a tense courtroom, or international business, mastering this art requires so much more than just being bilingual. It takes immense cognitive control and some incredibly clever, highly structured techniques. So let's unpack exactly what it takes to thrive in the interpreting booth. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to start with the core modes of interpreting, then move into specialized modes like sight and chutage. After that, we'll break down Roseanne's 7 note-taking principles, look at ISO standards for professionalism, and wrap up with the evolving role of AI in the field. All right, Section 1, Core Modes of Interpreting. So before we can run, we really have to walk, right? The profession largely divides into 2 primary modes, consecutive and simultaneous. Think of consecutive interpreting as a sequential dance. The speaker talks, then pauses, usually after a complete thought. During that pause, the interpreter steps in and delivers the message. Because of this, it relies heavily on your short-term memory and rigorous note-taking. It is highly accurate and perfect for smaller gatherings or court settings, but it does effectively double the time of a meeting. Simultaneous interpreting, on the other hand, happens in real time. The crowd isn't kept waiting. It demands such intensely high focus that interpreters literally have to swap out every 20 to 30 minutes so their brains don't melt. This is exactly what you see at massive live events like the UN or major international summits. Moving right along to Section 2, Specialized Modes, Sight Translation, and Chutage. Let's kick this off with sight translation, which requires some really distinct and demanding adaptations of your core linguistic skills. This is essentially the simultaneous interpreting of a written document, but get this, with absolutely zero prep time. You're tasked with the immediate conversion of written text into spoken language. You don't get a dictionary, and there is no time for research. It requires proficiency across multiple domains, whether that's legal, medical, or diplomatic, and demands high verbal fluency and a very articulate pace. You're basically reading with your eyes and speaking in translation with your mouth, simultaneously. It's an incredibly high-stakes skill, absolutely essential for judicial, medical, and media settings. Then we have whispered interpreting, or chuchotage, which literally translates to whispering in French. This is a real-time simultaneous technique where you sit or stand physically close to the listener and, you guessed it, literally whisper the translated message directly into their ear. Now, while it's fantastic for maintaining the natural flow of a conversation without needing all that bulky booth equipment, it introduces immense physical fatigue. Your vocal cords are constantly strained from whispering, and you have to fight through all the background noise without the luxury of a soundproof headset. It truly demands razor-sharp memory and focus.
Which brings us to Section 3, Rosen's 7 note-taking principles.
We're transitioning now from what interpreters do to exactly how they do it, specifically in consecutive settings, where memory alone just isn't enough. Back in 1956, Jean-François Rosen totally revolutionized the field by outlining these 7 principles, noting the idea, abbreviation, links, negation, adding emphasis, verticality, and shift. As we go through these, I want you to think of your notes not as a verbatim transcript, but as cognitive stage directions. Actually, scratch that. If you try to write down every single word a speaker says, you will fail. The cognitive load is simply too high. Instead, these principles teach you to write down the absolute skeleton of the speech. Let's zoom in on Principle 1. Note the idea, not the word. This is foundational. You absolutely must free yourself from the constraints of the source language to avoid literal, clunky translations and cognitive overload. Think about it. If you give a French text to 10 excellent English translators, you are going to get 10 very different but equally valid English texts. Why? Because they're translating the concept, not the isolated words. For example, if a speaker says, "There is a good chance that," noting the specific word chance might actually mislead you later. But if you note the idea as probable, you capture the true meaning and prevent yourself from producing an unnatural phrase in the target language. Now, what's really interesting is how applying principles 6 and 7, verticality and shift, changes everything. Instead of writing from left to right like a normal sentence, interpreters take notes from top to bottom. By shifting vertically, you create this visual separation between the subject, the verb, and the object. This allows your brain to logically group ideas and instantly see exactly who does what. When you're forced to read your notes back while speaking under intense pressure, this vertical structure allows you to grasp the complete synthesis of the thought at a single glance. It is a real game changer. And to brilliantly illustrate Principle 1, notice the use of arrows and symbols to represent abstract ideas. An upward arrow easily replaces entire phrases like an increase in duties, scientific progress, or a rise in salaries. By developing your own personal system of universally understood symbols, you drastically reduce the time it takes to write. That frees up your brain's processing power to actually listen and analyze the source message. It is the ultimate exercise in mental efficiency.
Okay, Section 4, ISO Standards and Professionalism.
Zooming out from the individual's notepad for a second, let's look at the highly regulated professional environment you'll actually be working in. The professional conference interpreting booth is a uniquely intense environment. So, to protect interpreters from cognitive overload and ensure top-tier quality for the listeners, the international community established ISO 2355. This standard dictates the basic principles, practices, and requirements for conference interpreting services globally. It is literally the gold standard for the entire profession.
So what does ISO 23155 actually require? Well, first off, interpreting is fundamentally a team sport. Interpreters must work in teams of at least 2 per booth. Why? Because the cognitive strain of simultaneous interpreting is just utterly draining. Your boothmate is there to assist you visually and orally with tough vocabulary or unexpected acronyms while you are live on the microphone. The standards also mandate implementing strategies for controlling work-related stress, accepting only assignments you are truly qualified for, and maintaining rigorous glossaries and continuous professional development. You are never working in a vacuum. You are part of a highly disciplined professional ecosystem.
Finally, Section 5, AI's role in interpreting.
We absolutely have to address how artificial intelligence is impacting this profession. Recent advances in automatic speech recognition, neural machine translation, and large language models are honestly staggering. Systems like Whisper can transcribe and translate at near real-time speeds. However, there are severe architectural limits to current AI. These systems still lack the essential cognitive, pragmatic, and cultural capacities of human interpreters. They really struggle with context, tone, emotional nuance, and all those unspoken cultural cues that a human interpreter instantly reads and seamlessly mediates.
So the crucial point moving forward is all about augmentation. As the futurity of social sciences puts it, AI tools should be positioned to extend interpreter competencies while preserving the pragmatic, effective, and cultural mediation capacities. We really need to reframe our view of AI here. It's not currently a replacement for human interpreters. It's a powerful augmentation tool. Just like your human boothmate, AI can assist with cognitive collaboration, quickly retrieving terminology or complex numbers, which allows you to focus on the higher-order tasks of cultural and emotional mediation. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today and leaves us with this one truly vital question. As machine translation becomes near instantaneous, how will you preserve the irreplaceable cultural, affective, and human elements of interpreting? Technology will absolutely continue to evolve, but the human connection at the core of communication remains entirely in your hands. Challenge yourself to cultivate those uniquely human skills that no machine could ever replicate in the booth. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep practicing.